Welcome to Rescue the Man. My name is Mark Mascola. I am grateful to be here. Grateful you are here as well. What is Rescue the Man? Rescue the Man is a book, a podcast, online courses, and live events and workshops that have been created for men who are masculine to the core. We live in a world that is blurring the lines of masculinity. At Rescue the Man, our mission is to create a brotherhood of men who celebrate God-given, God-inspired masculinity. Masculine to the core. The letters of CORE are an acronym for men who are committed, optimistic, resilient, and empowered. Empowered because their primary purpose is to be defined by their masculine walk with God. We're glad you're here. Hey, Mark Mascola here. I want to welcome you to today's session. Before I get into kind of the meat and potatoes about what all we're doing, I'm coming to you today from Tin Cup Farms in the Echo Valley newly renovated retreat center, where we have got so many awesome things going on. Make sure you stick around to the end of this session. You'll get to hear some information about how you can get your hands on a great gift that we've got available to you. Plus, I'll tell you a little bit more about the Rescue the Man Camp David workshop series. You can find out more about it at www.rescuetheman.com. This is a workshop series that we put together. And we talk about empowering men for their battles with Goliath. You know, every single day we wake up, with all the hats that we have to wear personally, professionally, and spiritually. There's a battle that we've got to do, and every day Goliath wants you to, he wants to make you a quitter. You know, we live in a world that is full of men who are compliant, complacent, and silent, hiders, posers, and quitters. Don't be a quitter. Goliath wants you to quit before you discover how powerful God created you to be and become. That means in every area of your life, as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, as an impactful leader in your home and in your community. I mean, that's why we created this entire workshop series. It's an online thing where we're doing virtual events. It's a live thing. Our next live event is coming up on February 18th. Here at the retreat center where I am doing this session. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And let me tell you, the name of today's session is A Man's Core Values. A Man's Core Values. So let's begin, as I often do in these sessions. Let's talk the definition of a couple of the words here. Definition of values. A man's principles and standards of behavior. And I'm going to talk a little more here about principles in just a second, but if you look at the definition of values, a man's principles and standards of value. Let me be really honest here, that principles and standard of values do not go hand in hand in our world today. We have lowered a standard of values for men to a point that is almost beyond fathomable. We have allowed ourselves to step into a world where we are lowering standards of behavior to points that we can't even think about. I mean, what we have accepted as the way men choose to conduct themselves, the examples that they are, it's just nuts. So there is a big difference between when I talk about the definition of values, a man's principles and standards of behavior. There is a standard of behavior that we have accepted again, that is far below what we need. I've got an upcoming session that I'm going to do that I'm going to talk about the whole concept of expectation. You know, we live in a world that has far too few expectations of men. There's just a lot that goes into that. And there are way too few men who set a standard of excellence as an expectation for their sons. Now listen, when I talk about a standard of excellence, I'm not talking about making good grades at school. I'm not talking about I'm talking about the standard of what it takes to be a godly man in our world today. And the reason, I mean, let's just call it what it is. The reason so many men have a challenge with setting a standard of behavior of excellence in being a godly man for their sons is because they do not set that standard for themselves. Again, we live in a world of compliant, complacent, silent men. Goliath's number one game is to make you a quitter before you discover how powerful God created you to be and to become. And that's in every area of your life. So when I talk about a man's principles and standards of behavior, there's a real challenge here. You know, the definition of the word beliefs is an acceptance or state of mind that something is true, and I'm going to add, like I always do, whether it is or not. We're allowing our belief systems to be an acceptance that that's just the way things are. That's what being complacent and compliant means. Compliant means that that's just the way things are. Complacent means that I'm not going to do anything about it. Silent means that, oh God, I don't want anybody to point the finger at me and accuse me of being a godly man in everything that I do. The definition of core, and here again, everything that I do here and we do here at Rescue the Man is focused on being masculine to the core, understanding God-given, God-inspired masculinity. And the acronym for CORE is men who are committed, optimistic, resilient, and empowered by God. But the definition of CORE in the session today is the central and most important part of something. Now, our values, we all have a unique sequence. When God created man on the sixth day, He made each of us unique. And we all have a unique sequence of lesser, neutral, outer core, and core values. That's why when men go through our Camp David workshop that is called the Warrior's Challenge, you know, the number one session in that workshop is about a man discovering his core strengths. The second session, the video series, the questions that go along with it, the journal, the whole deal focuses on our values and understanding that we all have a unique sequence of values. We have lesser values, things that really don't matter to us, right? Things that we don't honor. We have neutral values, things that we just don't think about. We have outer core values, and I'm going to talk about the origination of some of those outer core values, and then we have core values, and we're going to talk about the origination of those. So the origination of our values. We have values, again, standards of behavior, and I'm not going to throw in the word principles and standards of behavior. I'm going to say we have values, standards of behavior that may or may not be principled in nature that we adopt from our families and others in our personal lives. And why do I say that? Having worked with men for several decades now, there are a lot of men who honor unhealthy family values. If I'm throwing rocks at you, then so be it. There is a misguided masculinity that sometimes comes from men, from fathers that pass those values onto their sons of masculinity that are not principled in nature. Again, we have values, standards of behavior that may or may not be principled in nature that we adopt from our families and others in our personal lives. And we also have values, standards of behavior that, again, that may or may not be principled in nature we adopt from our professional lives. Standards of behavior, things that we do in our jobs that we may not believe in, but we do them to stay employed. Think about that. Do you lower your standards of behavior to do what you do for a living? Again, we have values that originate in our families and our personal lives. We have values that we adopt from our professional lives. Let me put both hands in the air. I'll be the first one to say, in my life in the construction business and as a real estate developer and several other areas of my life, I adopted standards of behavior that were not principled in nature in my professional life. I mean, I paid a huge price for them. One of the it wasn't that I was a bad guy, I was just doing things wrong. I was living life wrong. I was living in this world of competition, not cooperation. I was trying to get mine at the expense of yours, not understanding that I can have mine and you can have yours. The game of cooperation. And now don't get me wrong, every man has within him a competitive nature. God put in us a competitive nature. I mean, if you look back through the history of man, we had best be competitive in nature, in the whole caveman era, right? Or we were going to starve to death. So there is a healthy competition, and then there is an unhealthy competition. The healthy competition is me becoming the best version of me. The unhealthy competition is me stepping on your neck, whatever that takes. The definition of the word principle or principled: an undeniable truth. Think about that definition. Definition of principle: an undeniable truth. A man's core values are his principal values. And these values may or may not be in harmony with our family values, our personal values, and may or may not be in harmony with our professional values. Yet, let me tell you, as a man who lived his life in a total disharmony with my personal and professional values, not being in harmony with my core values, again, a man's core values are his principal values. These are the values given to him, given to you, given to me at birth by our Creator. The undeniable truth and truths that originate with God. So we can talk, I can do session after session about our personal values, right? Our family values, our marital values, our parenting values. I can talk about our professional values in understanding, and I'm going to talk in a minute here about service and providing service. I can talk about the professional value of service, the professional value of what we do to create enough money to live. We had best have a professional value that allows us not just to survive, but to prosper and help our kids prosper so we don't struggle. So again, a man's core values are his principle or principled values. These values are given to him, given to me, given to you at birth by our Creator, and the undeniable truth and truths that originate with God. So a man has three core values. Understand this. A man has three core values. The first core value is truth. The second core value is growth. And the third core value I mentioned just a second ago is service. So let's go over each of these. Core value of truth. All right, so we live in a world that we have all heard the phrase, discover your truth, live within your truth, find your truth. Now let me tell you, I agree with that only if your truth is in harmony with the truth. If you have a belief system and a standard of values that is based in your truth and not the truth, again, the principle-based truth that we got at birth from our Creator. Let me tell you, I lived for years in my truth, only to discover it was not the truth. And I've had to make a course adjustment. When I talk about, the 5 pillars every man needs to build his life on, pillar number 3 is the pivot pillar, right? The ability to discern that you're not doing something correctly and make a course adjustment. I wasn't a bad guy. I wasn't doing bad things. I had the game out of sequence. Now listen, there are a lot of guys in this world who are doing bad things for their own gain. They have found a truth that is not the truth. So again, that is value number 1, a man's core values. Value number 1 is truth. Value number 2, the core value of growth. The word prosperity is mentioned over 100 times in the Bible. And the definition of the word prosperity is to live in a thriving environment. To thrive means to grow vigorously. And I always mention this because this is so vitally important. The 8 key areas that every modern man must master. Begins with personal growth, the foundation of everything, and comes full circle to spiritual connection and life's purpose. That is the essence of the divine relationship. My relationship with me and my relationship with God. And I will never be all I can be spiritually until I strive to be all I can be in my personal growth. Too often in our world today, people think this whole thing about personal growth is all about having a positive mindset. Wrong. Think positively. Wrong. The whole foundation of personal growth is to understand the power in the unique sequence of your personality. Your core strengths, I mentioned those. Your core values, I'm talking about now. And the spectrum sequence of your personality colors. And again, stick around to the end of the session. You'll get more information on some of that stuff. So the core value of growth, prosperity, to live in a thriving environment. To thrive means to grow vigorously in each of the 8 key areas. And if for some reason this is the first session you've ever joined, the 8 key areas are personal growth, relationships, finances, physical wellness, mental clarity, nutrition, recreation, and spiritual connection and life's purpose. Core value number 3, the core value of service. And again, core, meaning the central and most important part of something. You just heard me talk about key area number 8, a man's spiritual connection and life's purpose. In some shape, form, or fashion, your purpose on this earth is always to be of service to another man. And your value of service is to understand what is a man's 5 commitments. And these commitments are, number 1, be willing. Most men are just not willing. Compliant and complacent and silent men are not willing to do more. To be a man willing to do more, to become more, to have more. You got to have it to give it away. You got to become more to have more. I mean, there is an exact sequence in these 5 commitments. I got to be willing first. Willingness is the key that unlocks the door. To do more means I got to get into action. To become more is the foundation of my own personal responsibility for my personal growth. To have more means that I'm willing to do what most men won't, to have what most men don't. And no, that doesn't mean money, but no, it doesn't not mean money either. To serve more. To be a fisher of men. To help men understand their masculine walk with God. Again, your greatest, the core value of service. Your greatest service, number 1, is your example. How do you live your life? You know, I say it all the time when I talk to guys in recovery from addiction. It's not how you are and conduct yourself at a 12-step meeting. It's not how a man conducts himself at church. Anybody can be a spiritual giant for an hour a couple times a week. What is your example to others between the meetings, between the church services? How do you live your life? What is your example to the core circle of men you surround yourself? What is your example in your community? How do you treat the girl or the guy that checks you out at the grocery store? Your example is your greatest service, and then your guidance. Again, you gotta have it to give it away. Your fellowship, your mentorship, your coaching. So that's the end of the session. A man's core values. This is, I'm so passionate about what all we got going on here. So I'm really grateful that you joined us today from the Echo Valley Retreat Center here at Echo Valley and Tin Cup Farms. And stay tuned. And I'm going to talk about a special offer that you can get your hands on here like immediately. So. Have a great day. That is the end of the session. So my prayer is that today's session leaves you inspired to be the best husband, father, businessman you can be by becoming the man the world needs you to become. You know, the same guy God created you to become. I invite you to go to www.rescuetheman.com and check out all the empowering things we have going on. There's the book, the video book. There's also videos and links to our retreats and workshops like Camp David, the Warriors Challenge, the Empowered Man's Workshop. We have stuff for couples, fathers, plus so much more. Right now, you can get instant access to a man's quest for his true identity. This is a free video series that I've put together, and I've even thrown in a great gift to help you awaken the man God created you to become by discovering your core strengths. Again, check it out at www.rescuetheman.com. This is Mark Mascola saying, until next time, be empowered. Have a great day. You absolutely deserve it. Bye for now.